everybody, and welcome back to Novels and Nightcaps, the podcast where we read, we drink, and we ramble. I'm Gabe.
And I'm Nor.
And in today's episode, we are talking about A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. Since we are obviously not the target audience for this book, however, we did dress up as our best bachelor outfit. I'm, in fact, not a bachelor. That's why we recruited my wife, Laura. Say hi, Laura.
Hi.
Who will hopefully provide a little bit of a more enthusiastic voice to the conversation, as she is practically an expert in the series. But as always, before we get started, Nor, what are you drinking?
Well, it's the end of the year. It's our last book of the year. And it's A Court of Thorns and Roses, something steamy, something hot. So I decided to get myself some wine. What about you guys?
So similar to you, we went to the store to pick out, of course, what drink we're going to have. And we got some Moscato, which is delightful. It tastes like juice. It's 5% ABV. This is quite a delightful drink. Something sexy, as you said. I also chose something a little feminine. Laura, what are you drinking?
As a public school teacher, I have a Diet Dr. Pepper.
Yeah, it's I believe in your contract that you are not allowed to be drinking on camera on social media. So unfortunately, the Bible's all to myself. But that's okay. I'll take one for the team.
Good time.
And we'll go with it. So, okay, Nora, for those who have not read A Court of Thorns and Roses, which I suspect will be many of the people listening here, because I would, wager that that's not typically our audience. What is the book about? What are we getting ourselves into? Basically, tell me what I read, please.
A Court of Thorns and Roses is a romance fantasy. I think they're called romantasy. That's the name of the genre. Yeah, I'm getting a thumbs up. Cool. It's a romantasy that follows a human girl that kills a wolf that turns out to be a fairy. And
Classic.
for her crime against the fairy, she is sentenced to living happily ever after with another fairy.
Yes.
So basically this girl is kidnapped and taken to this beautiful place, beautiful magical spring court, where she is to spend the rest of her life with a really hot elf. Sorry, fairy.
Yeah, dude. Sorry. Yeah. They're not elves. They're obviously fairies.
They're obviously fairies. Yeah, really hot fairy named Tomlin.
Generally, yeah. And the main character, her name is Farah. Like, they make a really big point, but it's obviously spelled fairy. I think that's a pretty apt description of the book. I think you did quite a nice job. This is set in a world where, like, the humans are relegated to the southern part of this continent. Am I correct, Laura? Is that how this? Yes. She gives me a nod. Yes. And so, yeah, I mean, you have this person who's struggling to survive, kills a fairy, then, as you said, gets taken away. And it sounds a lot like a similar fairy tale and also a very well-known animated Disney movie,
The Little Mermaid.
Right. Sorry. Yeah.
No,
yeah, Beauty and the Beast. It's Beauty and the Beast. Right. And for those of you who, are looking, would you like A Court of Thorns and Roses? If you're really wanting a steamy version of Beauty and the Beast, you're going to love it. You're going to love it. I mean, Laura, who would like this book?
As the targeted audience, women would be the obvious answer here.
Women. I mean, it's not only women.
I feel like people raised on Disney princesses who have grown up, like, this is the target audience. We're grown. We're looking for something more mature. And now Sarah J. Maas has presented us with A Court of Thorns and Roses.
Yeah, and A Court of Thorns and Roses, mature is the exact word I used to describe this reading experience. I've never really had a more mature reading experience. And no, I think that's fantastic. Now, Nor, who is this book not for? Who shouldn't read this, Nor? Who wouldn't like this book?
To match Laura's answer, guys, man, no, I feel like, generally speaking, men are not gonna enjoy this as much as women. People who are not so into romance and are more into action and, like, really intricate world building, high fantasy,
Complexity.
Complex.
Sorry, that's super rude. Sorry. We're gonna be really nice today, guys, and we're not
We're
gonna
gonna be
bash
super
this book.
nice. Yeah,
We're gonna be
this is
super
not
nice, and we're gonna give it a real serious take. So just for those, yeah, we're gonna really dive deep into the intricate themes that this book possesses. Anyways,
It's quite a
continue. My
lot.
bad.
It's a very nuanced and complex book with intricate themes and
Rich, yeah, rich. Some would call it
rich in emotion and passion and
Yeah.
descriptive language. There's so many new words that or
Maybe
new
even, like,
uses for
dip-
words that I
Yes, like
Yeah,
watery
depth.
bowels. Yeah, a lot of watery bowels going on.
and a certain sheathing of a certain sword.
Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was a true delight. I'm really glad I did not have to buy it and that Nora already owned it. So I was able to. Sorry, Nora. But okay,
But hey-
yeah, men are not necessarily the target audience. So we should probably get into our overall impressions. You can probably gather a little bit about what Nora and I thought overall about the book. But then, of course, I think it's proper to start high up on the hill, seeing it from the mountaintop. Laura, what was your overall impression of the book? Like, what's your overall rating? And then a little bit of spoiler free why you thought that. I guess we forgot to mention, yeah, this first part, spoiler free. We'll get into all of the deep and nasty spoilers in just a second. But this section right here, completely spoiler free. Laura, overall rating, what did you think?
I gave it a solid 8.45. It was really good. It's been just a hot minute since I picked up a book and really wanted to read it. And I feel like this book has really gotten me back into reading. Gabe bought me a Kindle for Christmas because apparently I read now. That's my new thing. And so overall, this book was it was good. Like I grew up on Disney princesses. So truly this was just adult Disney princess. And I loved every moment of it.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I mean, you've read so much. I've never seen you read this much in my life. It's pretty incredible. Like you're crushing. I mean, you read through the book in one day. We were driving to it was Frankenmuth, right? To Christmas Village in Michigan. And that entire day she just read this book, like one day worth fully
I think I finished the
crushed
whole
it.
series in a month, maybe 3 weeks.
Yeah, 3 weeks to a month. Yeah. Anyways, so needless to say,
I enjoyed it.
yeah, for she enjoyed it. And if you are a person who is into this sort of thing, you're gonna love it. It's gonna click, and you're gonna crush the books. So I think that's a really good point to say here, though. Like, it is objectively an enjoyable book for a subsection of people that is honestly not us. Did you give your
Or
overall
it's
score?
targeted.
Did you give your score?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
8.5.
Yeah, I mine's a good bit lower. I give it a 6.15 as my overall score. It was fun. I think that's probably a good way of saying it. Like I knew all the spoilers before I read the book. I kind of knew the entire plot because Laura told me. And going in, I think that made it a little bit more of an enjoyable experience because I kind of knew it was exactly what I thought it was going to be. And so I could kind of make fun of it as I was reading, which is most of my enjoyment from it. But yeah, it had some moments that I definitely skimmed a lot that were a little overly descriptive and I just didn't care. But then there were some fun moments that I giggled to myself at. I had my little giggles. Plenty of moments I also rolled my eyes. So I think that pretty much sums up my reading experience of A Court of Thorns and Roses. But Nor, what did you give it?
Right. I should preface this by saying that I am a big Beauty and the Beast fan. I grew up with a lot of Disney princess movies, and I enjoyed those growing up. I have a little sister, so I grew up on that as well. And I like romance stories, movies, generally. This is the first time I think I've read a romantasy book. My score is a 5.4 out of 10. I thought it wasn't bad. I don't think it was bad. I definitely skimmed a lot in the middle specifically. I will say the plot had me going up until the romance. So once the real plot started, I think that's when it lost me.
Like you're like 50 pages of the book, you're like, all right, I guess I'm out of here.
Yeah. She was a huntress. She was a scavenger. She was surviving in the woods. That had me going. And then she got taken to this place as punishment.
Yeah.
Her punishment was to go to heaven. And quite frankly, that kind of lost
And then she
me.
was just a girl.
And she's just a girl, bro.
She's just a girl.
But then the last 30% of the book when the
Don't
tone
spoil it.
changes
Yeah.
is when it kind of grabbed me back again. I was like, oh, this is fun. But yeah, the romance, which is supposed to be the strongest suit, and I think most people gravitate toward this book because of the love, it didn't quite do it for me. So again, 5.4 out of 10.
Absolutely. I mean, I gotta ask though, like, I mean, I know this, but for the audience, Nora, what kinds of like love stories do you enjoy? Think about movies. What types of movies regarding love do you enjoy? Are they classic rom-coms or yeah, just what typically kind of love story do you like?
Yeah. My guilty pleasure is like a rom-com that obviously ends very happily, like When Harry Met Sally, How I Met Your Mother. But I'm also a really big fan of stories where like two people meet each other and their lives change because of it, but then they don't end up together and they go their separate ways. That's my kind of love story that I enjoy most. Like 500 Days of Summer, Your Name,
Her name
and
is great.
the likes of that.
So you would say that like you're typically drawn towards perhaps non-traditional love stories for the most part. It sounds like obviously like rom-coms typically fall into the traditional category, which this is not a rom-com to be very clear. There's little bits of what could pass for comedy, but that is by no means what it's going for. Like it's definitely trying to lean into the dramatic. But yeah, Lori, what else can we get into with spoiler-free impressions? I don't think there's a whole lot.
No,
You know,
it gets into spoiler territory pretty quickly, I think.
yeah. And if you're gonna like the book. I that seems very obvious to me. If this seems like something you'd like, you're gonna like it. If it doesn't seem like something you would like, you're not gonna like it. It's very clear to me from the beginning. If you hear the blurb and it draws to you and that sounds like something you would enjoy, you're going to enjoy it at the end of the day. So would we recommend it? It depends. It's not for me. So who am I to decide? And Laura?
Yeah. I mean, it depends on who I'm recommending it to.
So, okay, would you recommend it to any girl, any woman? Is that kind of what you would say? Or like, is there a specific type of person that you would recommend this book to?
I think I wouldn't walk into church with this book and recommend this to like the pastor's wife necessarily. But
point.
in general, I feel like it's a decent book, to recommend for many people.
That's a really, yeah, no, that is actually a very good disclaimer. If you're really not looking for anything explicit, there's not too much explicit content in here, but there is a few scenes that are. So if that is like a trigger for you, if that's something that is off-putting, I mean, exactly what Laura said. Yeah, don't give it to your pastor's wife unless she's cool like that. But like for the most part, it does have some explicit parts that are kind of what I gather like the point, kind of the meat and potatoes of a romantasy is whenever they finally get together. It was obviously, I feel like, very uncomfortable for Nora and I. We kept texting each other, why are we reading pornography? While we were like, we have a group chat and Nora's like, why are we reading this? Oh my gosh. So yeah, I don't think that's a real spoiler. It seems like just a disclaimer that people should know before getting into this to kind of figure out whether or not they would like it. It's not filled with it. That's not, I would say, the main driving factor behind the book whatsoever, but it is an element that is present.
Yeah, that's a good disclaimer. There is a lot more to the book than I think we are voicing right now. Like, there is an actual plot, there is a world, there is a larger story happening, or at least the beginning of one. There is lore, but of course, a big driving force, the driving force of the story is love. What you're willing to do for love, the sacrifices that you're willing to make, and getting into spoiler territory. Like how much of yourself are you willing to give for the other person? Which if you're drawn to those themes, this is definitely the book for you. If you are looking for an easy entry into fantasy and you are a fan of romance, then this is a pretty good entry into like the fantasy genre. I think this will be a lot of readers, especially female readers, introduction to fantasy, even though the greater genre is very different in many ways.
That's fantastic. Yeah, and I mean, honestly, that probably gets really well into the meat of this video. So we're going to get into spoiler section now. So if you haven't read it and you would like to read it, go read it. But now we're going to talk about spoilers. So first, it seems like we should talk about the world, because we're talking a little bit about how this might be a really good gateway novel for people looking to kind of dip their toes in fantasy. So, Nor, I see that this is your best rated section. What did you give the world of A Court of Thorns and Roses?
All right, to preface this, as I've mentioned in previous episodes, for me, a 5 out of 10 means that the world is just Earth. Like Earth, the world building on our Earth is a 5 out of 10. So, with that in mind, I gave this one a 7 out of 10. I actually did like the lore, and those were my favorite chapters. There was one chapter in particular that was like just literally info dumping. I was eating everything up. I was like, oh, okay, now we're talking, now we're cooking. And I was really disappointed to see that there wasn't any more like info dumping chapters. Although I did enjoy the second half of the book a lot more because it finally got into the intricacies, which again were not maybe as nuanced and as intricate as like Stormlight, but they were interesting. I had a lot of questions, and it did keep me going. So yeah, the world building for me gets a 7 out of 10. I thought I would be interested to read more of this series just to learn more about the world.
Dude, you know what? I kept thinking, like, is this a portal fantasy? Because while obviously she's in this world with fairies and stuff from the very beginning, it feels like she quite literally enters this new world. Because there's relatively little magic going on in the human realm, right? Laura, is that correct?
There's a big wall between the two, so
Yeah. Is it a literal wall? Okay, I did not understand.
In my mind, I think of it as like a magical barrier kind of thing.
Okay.
But like, they say the wall.
They do say the
And
wall.
the wall has
But they just kind of like pass the wall a lot. And so I was trying to figure out, is there like a gate? The gate? Is it like a little tiny wall?
The way I pictured it was as if it was a forest, and they cross this forest, and before you know it, they're in this other world, the fairy part of the
when
world.
you read,
But I'm not
like,
entirely sure.
further into the series, you'll learn a lot more about the wall.
Okay, so it is a physical wall.
It's a physical wall.
It's more of like a magical wall.
It's a magical wall.
And then there's some like holes in it here and there that you can slip between the human and fae world.
So I guess it really isn't technically portal fantasy, because I mean they have like an inkling of what's going on beyond it. A lot of misconceptions that get proved wrong throughout the book about like fairies can't lie, stuff like that were developed to subjugate humans. But yeah, that was an area where I kept thinking, I'm like, it kind of has a little bit of the essence of a portal fantasy that makes it such a good introduction into the fantasy genre, because you get that whole fish out of water situation where she has to learn all of this material. You're allowed to have those big info dumps, like you mentioned, or that you found so fascinating, where she doesn't know all this information, whereas characters in a lot of other fantasies have to. The responsibilities on the reader to pick up all those pieces in other fantasy books, whereas here you're learning it along with Feyre. So that was kind of what I was thinking. But I did have a bigger discussion that I wanted to get into here. And perhaps, I guess, Laura, what is your rating for World?
I gave it a solid 10 out of 10, and that was with the other 4 books backing it up. The first book is fantastic, but obviously the further you get into this world, the more descriptive it becomes, the more just cool it becomes. And so with the knowledge of the other 4 books, I guess there's 3 with the novella, I gave it a 10 out of 10.
Novella. Wait, how long? Wait, no, this is crazy to me. Laura,
I think it was like 250 something pages.
It's a 250-page novella. That's not a novella. That's just a novel.
That takes place.
That's a novel. That's so insulting.
A few weeks, maybe. It's just a Christmas little story.
A little Christmas story. That's ridiculous.
Gabe, I guess you wrote a novella.
Yeah, right? How insulting. Whatever. It's fine. It's like, oh, it's just 100,000 words. Not a big deal, guys.
Because her books like jump in page. Like they go from 450 to 650 to like 750, and then our last two are like 750, whatever. So compared to the rest of her books, that is a lot shorter.
Yeah,
I guess
for sure. So okay, you very much like the world. I know that, and I don't think this was a spoiler. It's more so just like anticipating things. From what I understand, the scale of things just gets a lot larger, as you would expect.
It does, and I love books that have like factions or groups or like courts, and they separate them based on like who they are or like what they are. And so this does a really good job of like providing snippets of each court because they have like several different courts, and I really enjoyed getting to learn about each court.
That's a good point.
Group of people.
I did find that fascinating as well, especially the Night Court, because of a certain character who I found really, really interesting.
Certain dark and mysterious character?
A dark and mysterious
Sexy,
character.
Seductive, mysterious character. Perhaps we'll get into his character during the character section. I didn't like it as much as you guys, and I have a really big problem with it that I'd like to get into. So I gave World a 6.5 out of 10. So it's not too far off from you nor. I didn't like it. I did like it. I, just like you, was actually surprisingly interested in some of the info dumps and some of the lore. I was kind of digging the whole cauldron vibe and the the world building mythos was kind of fun, and how it's baked into their everyday language, which seems obvious, but I don't know. I thought it was cool. And there's clearly more under the surface. But I would say, Nor, did you take a look at the map? If you look at the map, this struck me immediately, and it bothered me so much. It looks exactly like Great Britain.
Cue a picture of them side by side.
Yeah, it's exactly like Great Britain. I'm not joking. And it immediately stuck out to me. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is just England, and then you have Ireland over to the side. And then it hit me. Why are all of the classical Irish stereotypes associated with the people of, I think it's called Highburn, this other island, which is just shaped like Ireland? And so I know that Sarah J. Maas is American. She was born in New York. I did some research before this just because I wanted to see if she was participating in a long history of, honestly, subjugation, and of oppression, right, between the English and the Irish, because that's a big thing, is the English and the Irish, this divide where the Irish are stereotypically these kind of barbaric, aggressive, angry people who are drunkards and are promiscuous. There's a lot of bad cultural baggage when it comes to the relationship between England and Ireland, and she plays directly into that. Yet, at least within this book, it doesn't try and add any nuance to that. It doesn't pretend like the people of this other island aren't completely evil, which I thought was interesting. So
they are.
Okay, yeah.
They are.
They are.
So I guess
that's all I'm gonna say. They are.
So I guess that I started really asking this question of every author draws inspiration from the real world. Every author, right? You have to have something semi-recognizable in order to have any sort of connection or tie to a universe that an author builds. How much of a connection is too much? At what point is inspiration dangerous? Because here we see her clearly drawing inspiration from England and Ireland and playing into these stereotypes, yet not negating them, playing into them. Is that problematic? Does it not matter? Is it harmless? I mean, obviously, it could also just be ignorance, she just doesn't know. But I find that hard to believe, given how many copies of her book she sold. So I don't know. Yeah. What do you think?
Well, two things to begin. I did not notice that they were playing into actual stereotypes. I was also reading this on my Kindle, and I did not see the maps at all. As soon as I turned on the Kindle, it just took me straight to chapter 1. No map or anything. So I had no idea there was a map. I guess, stories just draw upon archetypes and stereotypes to begin with. I mean, characters usually they start off as archetypes, which are based on stereotypes. Certain groups fit certain stereotypes in fantasy from the real world. So I think the main point of this series, or at least the first book, has to do with love and what you're willing to do for the one you love and all that stuff that I talked about earlier. I don't think she was trying to say anything from any like actual group of people. But then again, I haven't read the other books. I don't know how more like how the scope of the story broadens or like what themes she explores later on. Right now, it seems very simply a love story or a story about love rather than anything else. Even the villain of this book was motivated by love, and you know, I don't think the scope of this book, at least, maybe the series broadens, but the scope of this book so far is love.
Yeah.
So I don't think the like reliance on like Britain and Ireland necessarily is that harmful, at least in this case.
Okay, that's fair. And yeah, I think that's a good point though. Is like an author is only responsible for what they really like explore. Perhaps that is one of the takeaways here is that an author can only do so much within a story, right? You have X amount of pages, and one of the big things about writing is choosing what you fill those pages with. And filling that with, in this situation, right, a love story is a very clear, intentional choice. She's not choosing to dispel stereotypes about the people of Highburn. I think that's how you say it. Highburn. She's instead choosing to analyze the relationship between Tamlin and Feyre and the other guy. What's his name?
Risen.
The other, which one? Rysand. Rysand. That guy. She's choosing to explore their relationship as well. And she's still leaning into like tropes, right? Obviously, she's leaning into this whole like enemies to lovers dynamic, but that's the scope of the story. So I think that's a good point. She perhaps doesn't have a responsibility to that unless she explores it, which is problematic in later books if she doesn't, if she just kind of lets those stereotypes settle. But for now, there's that. So I also really wanted to compare some of the magic here because magic is an essential element within the story. It literally resurrects Farah at the end of the book. There's magic with like the table, magic with glamour and kind of this illusionary effect that Farah runs into. It's, for the most part, a soft magic system. For those of you who don't know, there's soft magic and there's hard magic. Hard magic is more like Brandon Sanderson, but magic is more akin to science. It's something that can be mastered, can be understood. It has rules. Soft magic is something a bit more mystical, kind of more, a little bit more religious. It is harder to understand, not as clear. And I mean, you see like Lord of the Rings is, for the most part, a soft magic system for how it treats most of its magic. But the ring itself is a hard magic system. You know, you put it on, you go invisible, but all the bad guys see you. So that's how I've heard Brandon Sanderson at least explain it. And here we have a pretty clear soft magic system. And I just was wondering, because I haven't read too much soft magic like this. What do we gain by allowing something to be a little bit more like emotional and vibes based compared to, I'm thinking of Brandon Sanderson, just like all of his books, pretty much everything in the Cosmere is a pretty hard magic. Like he has very clear rules that define how things should function. So what are the benefits to having a magic system like we have in ACOTAR compared to a more hardline magic system?
I think it depends on the type of story you're trying to tell, and partially based on the protagonist that you're exploring to some extent and the themes that you're exploring. So for instance, like I'm writing a book, I'm workshopping it, and mine is very soft magic because the themes that I'm exploring are more emotional and more about like awe and wonder and the beauty of the world, as well as the emotions, the emotional tugs at your heart, that type of thing. With Lord of the Rings, on the other hand, you have a protagonist that is very human and powerless. It's just a hobbit in this big, crazy world with wizards and monsters and goblins and trolls and dwarves, and elves. So there's all this, like, the scale of the Lord of the Rings is huge, but the main protagonist is just a hobbit who has to walk all the way to the other side of his land, right, to destroy this ring. Like, it's all above him. So I think in stories like that, a soft magic system also works because the protagonist has no idea how the magic works in this world. I mean, realistically speaking, the magic in this world is also a hard magic system. Like there have to be rules, otherwise everybody would be magical here in the Lord of the Rings world. But that is not the case. And so I think part of it is also based on the perspective and the way you frame the story.
Also, it allows it to be a lot more whimsy. This is romantasy, When I thinking back to Mistborn, I don't think I could describe it as whimsical and soft like that. Having this soft magic really allows for just a sense of mystery in general, just like something to admire, not hard and fast rules. Mistborn is cool. It's awesome. Like it's very strategic with their fight scenes, but there's something nice about just being like, that's like that happened. Okay. There's something nice about just the mystery of it all, the glamour of having this soft magic, of having, just things maybe just benefit you in certain ways with this.
Yeah, I mean, I immediately
Happy.
think of
The specific.
it feels like a force almost. As in, I mean, in this story, kind of what you were saying, Nor, also, where it has to play into the themes of the story quite well. And whenever this book is obviously about love, it makes sense that in the same way that love is kind of irrational at times, it tugs on you even whenever you don't want it to. It falls away whenever you are chasing after it. In the same way that love is a force of its own, this magic system also at times is not there when you really need it the most. It can be ripped away from you at the last second. And I don't know, it felt like love. What?
Are you quoting the riddle?
I wasn't trying to. Okay, we got to talk about the riddle. Yeah. What would that be in? That would probably be plot, right? So we should probably get into plot. I'd love to talk about this. Nora and I were texting each other as we were reading the riddle. We should start. Yeah, Nora, what did you give the riddle? Not the riddle, the plot as a whole. The plot as a whole.
The plot
we could just chalk it up to the riddle.
What did you think of the riddle on its own?
I was texting Gabe about this as the witch, I forgot her name, as she was talking about some riddle. She wasn't saying the riddle quite yet, but she was talking about it. And she was raising the stakes for this riddle. Like, you answer this riddle, you get out of here instantly. I was like, it's love, isn't it? And then she started dropping the riddle, and it's so funny to me because I have the Kindle and I have on my settings the most popular highlights are
but they can highlight things. Yeah,
everybody highlighted the riddle, and I mean, granted, it is a beautiful riddle. It's poetic. I like it. I like the language in the riddle. I thought it was cool, but you could tell right away from the first sentence that it was love. And then I don't know why. I don't know what gave me the impression that this riddle was going to be answered at a later book. So I just went ahead and looked it up. I was like, what is this riddle? What's the answer to the riddle? And it turns out to be love. And I'm like, oh, I knew it. And then I went back to reading. I flipped the page. I think it's the next chapter. They answer the riddle. I was like, oh, I spoiled myself. But I didn't realize I was spoiling the book.
Yeah,
and then I did spoil
we were texting
Gabe.
each other. We were texting each other, and we're like, yeah, it's love, right? We're pretty sure it's love. And I mean, we were both right. Yeah, it's one of those things where you cannot end a love story with an answer that's not love. It just wouldn't make sense. If the answer to it was self-sacrifice and blood, it just wouldn't work. It wouldn't make sense. So I understand, but it also was it definitely was cheesy. It was fun, but.
And I looked it up. I looked it up online, see what people were saying about the riddle, and apparently it was 50-50. 50% of the people got it right away, and then the other 50% was I can't believe I didn't get it. I was like, oh. Which, to be fair, I also highlighted the riddle because I liked the way it was phrased. It was a nice riddle.
Yeah, I mean, Laura, were you able to gather what the riddle was about? It's okay.
I'm gonna be fully honest. I don't think I even read the riddle. I think I was like, oh, it's a riddle. Okay, skip. And then I kept on reading, and then I went back and read it, and I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Wow, man, we really all do read in different ways. I mean, I think I've talked about it on the podcast, how you like to know the ending of a book first so that you don't care about characters that die. So you can intentionally.
I think the more I read, the worse it gets, because now I've gone from reading the last 2 chapters to just Googling it and being like, with spoilers, what is the plot of this book? And who do I need to care about?
Which, granted, my mom and my brother both do that all the time. They want to know what happens at the end before even watching the movie or the book. And my sister does too. I think my whole family does, honestly.
I
And
can't stand it.
according to Sanderson, apparently a significant amount of readers do that too. They flip to the last page of the book and they want to make sure that the protagonist or the character they care about is still alive. So, interesting observation.
That's so funny because that is what actually makes me feel the most alive in my life.
But don't get me wrong, I hate it. I do not want to know anything.
No, oh my gosh.
I am almost religious about spoilers.
Yeah. Yeah, there's nothing that hits harder than like somebody dying that you don't expect and your heart getting ripped out of your chest. Oh, like I mean, it happens. Sometimes you get spoiled on things. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't particularly care about spoilers for this book. I kind of knew where it was going anyways, and I think it made it more fun, kind of knowing where the plot was headed. But yeah, for regular books, occasionally I get spoiled. It sucks when it happens, but I never seek it out. I love the surprise. I want to be shocked. I want for me to have a physical reaction to something that happens in the book. I want to physically react. Like I want to gasp or cry, or we've talked about this. The best books make me cry. The best experiences I have, and Laura knows, it's some of the only times I cry in my life. It's fiction and football, man. That's what gets me going.
See, my thing is, I think I still have a reaction, like, regardless, but I want to be prepared for the reaction, I want to be ready to react.
So are the spoilers like a seatbelt? Is that how you would describe it?
I think so. I think it makes me feel like ready to take on something new.
Yeah, it doesn't
Less
stop
anxiety.
the crash. Yeah, it doesn't like stop the crash, but it helps you stay a little bit safer during
Exactly. So I know what to expect,
It's
but it's not
psychological
word for
insurance.
word. So
psychological. That's a really good way of putting it. Wow.
there you
Wow, that's delightful. Nora, what did you get plot? Or we were talking about plot. What did you get plot?
Right, plot. So now that we're done talking about the riddle, I gave plot a 6 out of 10. Again, I'm a big fan of Beauty and the Beast, so I appreciated that element here. I thought it was nice. I really enjoyed the opening chapters and seeing her struggles and seeing the setup. I thought it was cool. Oh, she's killing a wolf. Oh, this wolf is a fairy. Oh, she has to answer for her crimes. But then that's when the shift happened for me, because to answer for her crime, she was just taken to the Spring Court, which, granted, we learn more about why she was actually taken and all that later on in the book, right? The whole curse thing and like having Tamlin fall in love with a human girl who despises fairies. So once that was revealed, that did kind of compensate for the initial passivity and just kind of easy. She was kind of cruising through the plot for a long while. She had freedom. Obviously she wanted to go back to her world. She wanted to go back to her family, but it didn't really seem to me like she was doing much about it because her situation was kind of helpless. Now, once it got into the love aspect of it all, I quite frankly thought it happened way too quickly and way too suddenly. 1 minute she hates him, and then the next, all of a sudden, they are incredibly attracted to each other. And next thing I know, there's a really steamy description of a particular sword being shitted somewhere that really shouldn't be. So that part lost me. That's where I think I take points off, which is kind of a bummer for me because, I expect the romance to be like the best part of this book. And for me, it didn't quite do it. That being said, once she was sent home and she made the decision to go back and trekked under the mountain, I thought that was a lot more interesting. I was like, oh, now this is getting good. The tone of the story completely changed. The love felt a lot more visceral. I will say to me, it felt a little immature, although I might be like talking more about character here. But back to the plot, I think it had a strong opening, a murky middle, and a strong ending. The ending did get me intrigued, and that little deal she makes with Rysand, where she needs to spend a week of her life every month for the rest of her life in the Night Court. I'd be interested in reading more about that because I thought Risen was a interesting character.
He's interested, Laura.
Next year, Christmas.
Oh
this
my
is your
gosh.
next
She's
book
making
one.
a canon, Nora.
It's gonna be yearly, guys. Novels
She
and
was-
Nightcaps, buckle up.
Oh my gosh.
We're buying this book every year for Nor.
You buy me
That's a
those
lot of
books, I
money.
will read them. But I will not pay another
You
cent.
heard him.
Oh, yeah.
And you already have the pleasure of owning them.
Wow. What a pleasure.
Lucky you.
You know, Nor, you honestly had the exact opposite opinion of me in the sense of I also gave it a 6 out of 10. However, I loved the middle of the book and hated the ending and beginning. Which is so funny. I loved all the sections like in the manor where they're just kind of just living life. You know, she's painting it up. She's going on little events, you know, having her little shenanigans. They have a bonfire scene that's really like paganistic and they bite each other and stuff. And there's all that. That was like interesting to me. Not that I found the romance convincing, but more so it was like fun. I was like, wow, this is so silly. What a goofy fun time. And the parts that were hard for me was when I felt the book tried to take itself seriously. And there was a bit of a disjointed connection for me where I don't feel the tension of her dying at the end of the book. Like, and perhaps that dives a bit into impact, but of course the impact is going to influence my opinion on the plot itself and what I think of the plot. Like I understood the beginning, I got it. I understood the ending, I got it. Like it's necessary, they're good steps. The part where she went home for the first time, where she gets sent home. Oh my gosh, where she was at home was so boring. I was so bored. I was so bored the whole time. I don't care about her dad. I don't care about her sisters. Like I did not care about any of that. And it was so hard for me to get through that section. And like I definitely more interested when she got under the mountain. But by far what I would say is the peak of the book for me was definitely the middle section where you get the most Beauty and the Beast sort of element. And there's other elements in there, of course, that I think are good and bad. Like it's definitely a mixed bag. But I had the opposite experience as you. And then Laura, what'd you think about the book?
I gave it a solid 8 out of 10. I enjoyed it. I agree with you. I liked the middle part a lot more than the beginning and the end. I loved all the fluff, you know. He gave her a library. That's not a library. That's like painting studio.
Of course, she can't read. Yeah.
You know, like he took her to a pretty pond. Like all these little things, they're so cute. And like I love a good like enemies to lovers kind of plot. And so that's exactly what this was. And so, you know, I enjoyed it for what it was.
And what it was not much, to be honest. It was not a lot happened. I expected more to happen, but it
was a really good setup for the next 4 books that are just, in my mind, very epic and grand. But you know, I'm a little.
I mean, she's a high fae now. Anything can happen. She's immortal. You can just keep going forever. She never dies. It honestly did bother me that they kept calling her immortal at the end, yet they obviously can die because Amarantha died. So like they're not immortal, but whatever. I don't know. That bothered me.
Stabbed a few of them, you know, Pharaoh.
Yeah. Also, Pharaoh like killed multiple of these immortal creatures. But I guess that's one of the parts about the plot that I did like was her murdering some innocents at the end, and that was great. And I also liked the element where
I knew you would love that.
I did. I can really get behind some murder, and the thing where like this was so funny to me, where she ratted out one of her just some random people from her village, Claire or whatever.
She gave a name.
What is
Sam didn't know it was real. And then they find her body hanging on the wall, and it's so dramatic.
So
it's so terrible.
I lost it. I was like, that's so funny. The fact that like she didn't, like she just kind of gave a name, and then they're like tortured. I don't know. I thought it was hilarious. Maybe I'm horrible. The whole family.
I actually did enjoy that part of the story, and I enjoyed how it kind of did scar her, and she didn't just like gloss over that. I'm
Yeah.
hoping, I mean, if I am to keep reading this, I hope that sticks around for a long time, because if that happened to me, it definitely would. I thought
Yeah.
it was a good choice, as well as the murdering of the fairies. I thought that was it's not normally something a protagonist does, or at least in the
It
stories that
really
I've read, right? So I thought it was definitely interesting, which is
it
why for
really
me the
pushed
ending
how
was
far.
stronger.
It really pushed like how far you would go for the person you love, like you were saying.
Exactly, like it really explores that theme, which is a really fascinating theme. So I think when it was explored that way, that was one of the strongest suits for me.
And so perhaps regarding theme, we should get a bit into impact here. Laura, we could start with you. I see your impact on the screen. What'd you give
Look,
impact?
with the way you described it, like impact on me, I gave it a 10 out of 10. Like, this is a book that got me back into reading. Like, I was big in reading in middle school and high school. And then I think I was just so burnt out, like, with college and everything, that I just hadn't picked up a book in years. And, I read Mistborn and I picked up books here and there, but it took forever to get through them. And then Gabe recommended this and I was really hesitant, and that first part that I didn't like so much, it took me a second to get in, but then I was like, this really just like got me back into reading. And so I feel like for that, I have to give it a 10 out of 10.
And when you say it took you a second, you literally mean a second, because again, you read it in one day. Let's be clear. Whenever I say a second, it's not like it took you a couple days to get into the book. No, I mean, you finished it in a day, Laura. Like,
It took me a few minutes to be like, oh, this is good. Let me
uh,
keep going.
it
Which
was
is
definitely hard for me to finish the book today. So anyways, Nor, yeah, what were we gonna say?
no, I was gonna say that the fact that she read that in a book, I mean, that is high praise for this book, and it really speaks to the fact that books and literature, it's a medium. There's so many different types of stories and genres, and not every book is for everybody, but there is a book for everyone. So
Mm-hmm.
the fact that this book got you back into reading is amazing, and I'm sure it got a lot of people back into reading. I mean, this is a big book. I think it's fair to say it has really high ratings. I see it everywhere. I mean, Target has a shelf full of these, and I think they just recently released like a new cover, because on Black Friday I went shopping and I kept seeing these beautiful black covers for the series. So big book. I know a lot of people that have read this book. So
Well, like we literally last time I went to like a bookstore, like a really good bookstore here locally, they literally said there's an entire Sarah J. Maas section just filled with her books, because it's not just it's not just ACOTAR that's big here. She's
Like 3 big series, I think, that she has.
Do you know the names? I don't know all the names.
I
I
know
think
it.
one of them is Throne of Glass,
Yeah, that's
and is there another one?
I think she just started
I feel like there's
one. I think maybe, I don't know.
supposedly they all might like come together. It's a fan theory.
Dude, it's like the Cosmere. The Mosmere? It's the Mosmere, the Sarah J. Mosmere. That's crazy. That's epic. Good for her. Good for her. I think that one thing that is important is, just because something's popular doesn't mean it's bad, or I think honestly it has to mean it is somewhat good. I mean, like, people enjoy it, and books are meant for two things. They're meant to challenge you, right? And they're meant to be enjoyed. Like, I don't know. I mean, this book is obviously a book designed for people to enjoy and consume. I don't think it's here to make you rethink how love functions. I don't think it's here to make you really contemplate any like philosophical depth regarding
unless
unless
in the next book explores something that we didn't know about.
yeah, I mean, okay, then say your impact, Nor. Say your impact. Say your impact then. Yeah. Let us know. Let us know your impact on this book. What did you think about its
Although,
themes?
yeah, so my objective, absolute, definitive rating for impact is a 3 out of 10. I did not care for this. It just didn't challenge me. It didn't particularly entertain me either. And maybe I just like maybe I just like a different type of love story. There's so many other stories about love that I've read that have impacted me in such a heavy way, such a profound way, completely changed the way I see things. This did not really do it. And I'm glad I read it because I think it's funny that I read this book. I like that we dressed up and I like that we talked about it. And I will say that I was like morbidly curious about this book for a while because I kept seeing it and the cover is pretty sick. Um, but it just didn't really impact me that strongly. And quite frankly, I thought the love was a little immature. But, 3 out of 10 for me. Well, what about you,
I
Gabe?
think, yeah, so I give it a 5 out of 10. I also particularly like wasn't super enthralled by it. The area where it did make me think, this was, to be clear, this was not the intention of the book. I don't believe that Sarah J. Maas was out here like trying to challenge me in this way, but it definitely made me think about some of the books I like and what I'm a target audience for. And like, what do I enjoy? What's complicated and possibly problematic about the things I enjoy? Because this obviously portrays men in a very specific way, right? Whenever you're talking about Tamlin, there's a lot of talk about his abs, and like I obviously don't care about that particularly, and I didn't find it problematic. To me, it seemed like harmless. There are plenty of guy books that do something similar, but more so its treatment of like love versus violence and war. A lot of the books I enjoy the most are really filled with a lot of testosterone, and you get to kill things, and like, I mean, or even movies. I mean, Nor, do you remember the day we went to watch The Northman?
It was one of the most memorable experiences of my life. I think I bruised from all the punching we were doing.
We got into the car after watching The Northman, and I'm not joking. We just two guys just like screamed, just like full testosterone, like scream. And that's the kind of thing I enjoy. And it's problematic. There's a lot of problems with looking at violence and getting kind of excited by it. But yet it's the case. And there are plenty of books that I love that the entire point is to honestly glorify violence in a way that's probably unhealthy. And the best time is whenever you have a book that allows you to like, tinker into these little areas where violence is glorified, but then also is like, yeah, but violence is bad. You have that push and pull of trying to be a good person, yet also engaging in some of these complicated narratives. Yet at the same time, this is doing the same thing, but for love. I mean, these are not healthy love situations. These are clearly toxic relationships and power dynamics. Like the whole attraction, Laura, correct me if I'm wrong here, is the idea of this guy that is very powerful, can protect you, but can also just as easily hurt you, that is instead choosing to love you, right? Like the power dynamic here is like your fate is in my control and I'm choosing to use my power for good. Even though it's, I mean, no different than a CEO and his assistant and him being like, yeah, I'm not going to use this bad. Yet there's obviously still this power dynamic at play that is informing how they love each other. And it's toxic. Like it's fundamentally toxic and unhealthy. So I don't know. I think it made me think about that. So the impact was good there in identifying what I have problems with in this book and saying, what about the books I like? Because this obviously isn't my cup of tea, but let's analyze the stuff I enjoy and I consume, and where can I find similar problems? Because all is fair in love and war. And I think that's really the key here is that there's love and there's war, and they have a whole lot more similar than they do different. Like they are a lot more comparable than we often like to think. So I don't know. What did you get that at all from it? Did you at all think about that? Or was that like not on your radar while reading this book?
No, I definitely thought about some of the things you mentioned. Not necessarily the war thing. I mean, granted, you are really into war.
Okay, I'm not into war. I don't like war. I don't, to be clear, I'm not like uh,
Don't wait, one of
You
them I'm
love
pretty sure
war.
is called
You
the
love war.
Court of War and Ruin. Or
wait, what
something.
did you say, Laura?
Is one of the books called A Court of War and Ruin? Oh, I forgot.
I don't know. I don't. She uses. Okay, this is a total side tangent. She uses the open dyslexia font, and like
He's hating on me for a disability?
no, she's allowed to be dyslexic. That's not the problem.
It was wings.
But like, no, it's so hard to read because I've tried to open her Kindle and read before, and I cannot read the open dyslexia font.
No, neither can I.
respect that you,
But I do
yeah,
respect that she's
respect
using it.
you need it. Yeah,
And I love that there's tools for people with dyslexia.
yeah. You know what? That's a great thing to take away. We love that there are tools for people who have trouble like reading, just like Farah, which gets us right to characters. So, Laura, what is your rating on characters?
That's a great question. I gave it an 8 out of 10. You know, I liked most of the characters. Again, I feel like all of my ratings are based somewhat on me also knowing what is happening in the next few books. So a good 8 out of 10. You know, there were, in this book specifically, like, they didn't flesh out her sisters very well. And then when she went back home, you know, they were talking a lot about the sisters and the dad. And truly, I didn't care, you know, same as Gabe. I didn't care because they didn't really tell us all that much about them. And so that I feel like is where they kind of like their downfall was. And then, but like, I liked Tamlin. I liked the main characters of it overall. And I liked how they worked with each other.
I think that's a great point of view, though, of that, like, you have the perspective of the entire character arc. And obviously, the more time you spend with these characters, I imagine, the more you grow to love them, right?
Mhm.
That's typically how it works with books is, you know, I could be wrong with these types of books. I don't imagine there's many, like, high-stakes character deaths. I mean, the main character was resurrected. We know that resurrection's a thing. I doubt that they take many opportunities to let big heroes fall. So I assume that you get to know these characters well, but no, I mean, that makes sense. So I honestly wasn't too much of a hater on it. I like the characters quite a bit, surprisingly. I give it a 7 out of 10. Tamlin was likable. I mean, he's shallow, sure, but all of them are. So I don't know. I liked Tamlin. I liked Mr. Night Court guy, Rysand. Laura, what is it?
In the video, Sarah J. Maas has said Rysand. In my mind, it's Rysand because I'm not sure.
Because he has like a
That's how it
nickname.
feels
It's
like.
Reese or something. Like, it doesn't the
RHYS.
Reese.
yeah, like Reese.
And I can't wrap my head around calling someone
The
Reese
audiobook
for some
called
reason.
him Reese. Rysand.
Oh, do you have the audiobook too?
Oh, okay. We'll go up.
Yes, because
Wait, were you listening to it?
Yes, because I skimmed a lot. It was a bit of a struggle.
Well, that's where you get the whole chapter skip.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No, we have to talk about this more.
That's a big
Oh my gosh.
point. That's a big point.
Okay. So I will continue talking about characters. Yeah, we need to mention this. So I was like texting Nora. I'm like, dude, did you hit the part where they had the dune worm? Because in one of the final trials, the very first task is a massive dune worm that she's supposed to be she fights. And Nora goes, what do you mean? No. I thought the first task was cleaning the floor. And I'm like, what? I was really confused until I got to she calls it a task as well. So that probably just points off on style. But no, she cleans the floor as a duty that she's forced to do. It's like a janitorial
so that
task.
she can't rest and
Yeah,
heal
they're
and,
like hazing her
defend.
basically.
Yeah. It's that's a really good point. I feel like the court of Thorns and Roses is one big sorority or fraternity. But
Which court are you gonna get into?
well, there has to be quizzes, right? There has to be big quizzes on which court you belong to.
I'm sure there are.
I feel like I'm a
Some
human realm.
Divergent and stuff.
If I find one, I will link it onto the show note.
But anyways, yeah, you skipped the entire first task and did not even notice?
I didn't notice, and I think that shows how not particularly important it was.
Yeah.
What happened was, yesterday, I was running out of time. I needed to finish this book, and I went to the gym, and I started listening to the audiobook, and I think I grabbed my phone, and I, swiped forward by accident. And I did notice that. I said, oh, I swiped forward way too much, so I went back. But I didn't realize that I skipped a whole chapter when I swiped forward, because the screen didn't change for me. It was just, the book cover. And I wasn't entirely sure what chapter I was on. So I guess I didn't rewind back enough. and so I skipped the whole chapter with the worm. And you kept talking about the worm, and I was like, wait, what?
I think I would have, noticed a worm. Yeah, it was just straight up like a giant dune worm out of nowhere. That to me, this is part of why I like mark some points off for the world. Like, this doesn't seem to fit the world, like a dune worm.
And they never mention again. Like, this creature is never mentioned again. Nothing related to it. She fought a big worm, she killed it, and we're done.
Well, and she like snapped her arm too. Like she was about to die because this was also kind of weird, but just like how visceral some of the wounds were that she got. It was like her arm is snapped, bone sticking out of the skin. She's bleeding to death. And so I think that's funny that you were like, well, yeah. Cleaning the floor is really tough. Obviously, she would break her arm cleaning.
Well, because before the cleaning,
she got beat up.
She got beat up. So I was like, oh,
yeah,
of course she got beat up. Like, but I guess she just repeatedly gets beaten up.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I can see how you would think that. Yeah.
Yeah, so like logically, it really didn't feel like I was missing anything.
Yeah,
especially because they did talk about it as a task.
Yeah, that's true. That was quite.
They called it an impossible task.
They called it an impossible task. Yeah, they did in fact call it impossible. But yeah, characters I thought were fine. Perhaps I maybe should have put it at 6. I don't know. I enjoyed the characters. The dialogue I thought was for the most part well written. It was like cheesy, of course, but that I kind of expected that, and so it was kind of fun. I don't know. I think honestly, how I would describe most of the characters is fun. I just had a fun time for the most part. Amarantha was not great. Just she kind of popped up in the middle of the book and was just evil, and that's not fun. I don't know. She wasn't very interesting or fun. But Tamlin was. I liked Tamlin. I liked Lucian. He was an interesting little sidekick guy that was not a love interest yet. I thought it was weird, honestly, that Farah kept thinking that he was somehow out to get her, because he always seemed like an ally. Like, he never seemed like a bad guy. From the very beginning, he seemed like a guy with an attitude, yeah, like he was a little chippy, but he was fundamentally a good guy. Like, everything that he did was helping her, and even the thing that she chalked up to, like, you set me out to die, she asked for. She's the one who wanted to do it. So I thought that was a bit confusing and not exact. It didn't land for me, the fact that she, until the very end, was confused about his allegiance and his loyalty. That was odd because he never once kind of took a step in the other direction.
I think it was to like further push like her dislike for the fairies and just like build that like side of the plot up. So when they made the big reveal that she was supposed to be the girl that hated fairies that fell in love with one, like she had all this like going for her, like she didn't even like the guy that was helping her. I
don't know, perhaps I also just never bought that she really hated fairies. I guess felt like a reasonable reaction at the beginning. A wolf is about to eat the deer you're trying to eat, and you kill him. So that seemed logical to me. It didn't seem like a kill out of hatred. She kind of she talked about it later as like a murder, but it felt more like you were trying to survive. It felt more like survival than anything. So I never really bought. Okay, this was huge pet peeve of mine. Also it's also related to world. The fact that her mother died of typhus bothered me so much, because it's like, you're in this magical world. Number one, have fairies kill your mom. Like, that seems like the obvious thing here.
To make her hate the fairies.
Yeah. This is like, have fairies kill your mom. Typhus, the most like real world, like I don't know. It was such a weird choice, because it's supposed to be set not in our universe where there's like magic and fairies and all this stuff, yet typhus is still out here killing people. Like, it'd been like, oh, there's a big cholera wave going through the town. I don't know. It just felt really misplaced, and also a huge missed opportunity that was kind of pointless, I felt. And I never bought that she hated fairies. There was no real reason for her to hate fairies. And so that seemed like an obvious choice that honestly was silly to me. But anyways, Nora, what did you think of characters?
I gave character a 6 out of 10. I didn't hate them. I didn't think they were like bad. I didn't particularly think they were good, like, in the large scheme of things, these characters are not necessarily that memorable to me, except Rysand. I did enjoy him. but that's just because I like that vibe for characters. I think the playful and mischievous, slightly bad guy is
seductive. You can call him seductive.
seductive, attractive. I was gonna say attractive
Yeah,
to me,
sexy.
but it reminded me of the Ghostbloods in Stormlight a little bit,
Yeah.
or Relucia in The Will of the Many. You know, this character
Yeah.
who is very clearly sadistic to some extent, and is obviously gonna have some like little crybaby backstory eventually. But
Does he have a? I guess you shouldn't spoil it. Don't spoil it, Lord. Don't spoil
don't
it.
spoil it. Don't spoil it.
Don't spoil it.
But
Yeah, we're gonna read
We'll
it
find
next
out
year.
next year.
that's
We
all I
might
need to
buy
know.
I hate
you
that.
the
I hate
book
that so
Nor.
much. I hate that so much. Honestly, I've read Twilight. I enjoyed Twilight more than this.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know. Twilight. Sorry, that's completely unrelated. Go ahead, Noah. Continue.
No, but like you said, the characters did feel a little shallow. I understood their purpose almost instantaneously. Like, you know, you could tell what role a character's gonna play. Honestly, I would have liked more characters. It felt like a very small cast. And then all of a sudden there were a lot of fairies gathered around, and that kind of did give me a bit of whiplash because I was so used to just like 3 people interacting with each other.
Yeah.
I also did not care about the sisters or the father. I thought, you know, spineless characters, very detestable. And then they try to make Nesta feel like, oh, she has her reasons. She's this way for a reason, which, I mean, of course she is this way for a reason. And from what I know, because I did look it up, I think she's the main character in the novella or novel, the like little spin-offs that they make. But I didn't care for her. I didn't really buy her reasons for being who she is. The father never had anything to contribute. The little sister, yeah, she's like a testament to hope. Whatever. Risen was cool. The evil witch, whose name I keep forgetting, wasn't interesting.
Amarantha.
Yeah. And like again, I mean, I'm going back to the love aspect of it all. It feels really childish. I mean, this is, as far as I know, it's Farah's first love. So I kept waiting for a bit more nuance and for like maybe the book to explore the fact that this was her first like actual romance, and it was very immature. I mean, granted, I guess they did spend a lot of months together, and I guess there was a lot of magic and magical moments here and there, but like she sells her soul twice for this guy. I didn't quite buy it. I keep hoping. I mean, I don't know if I'm actually gonna read the next few books. I guess next year we'll find out. But I keep hoping that she doesn't end up with Tamlin and she ends up with someone else, because I didn't really buy the love. So yeah, I give it a 6 out of 10. Not you know, in the large scheme of things, this was good. Like I enjoyed it. They served their purpose. There were aspects of the characters that I was interested in. There are certain characters that I did like. Lucian and Risen were some of my favorites. I did enjoy Farah. I thought some aspects of her were interesting, but you know,
There was that one guy back in the village that she banged, but like Isaac.
yeah, but it
his
was
name's
very
Isaac.
clear.
It was very
Yeah, but it was like it was very clear that it was like a friends with benefits situation. That it was, even if she mentions it multiple times, like, you know, it was a release.
I never felt this way about Isaac. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it was very clear to me that Tamlin was her first love, and I just kept waiting for that to be challenged. Like, oh well, it is your first love. It's a little immature, you know. But then again, that just goes back to like a personal taste. The type of story that I like is the one where the protagonist has these ideas of love, and then those are challenged throughout the story.
And perhaps this childish love that we were talking about here gets into a conversation, hopefully a brief one because we're running short-ish on time. Is this YA? Because it's kind of written like YA. From my understanding, it's marketed as YA. Yet you have explicit sex scenes. It, for all intents and purposes, feels like a YA novel. Like it feels like a young adult novel. Yet there's some areas, not only in the sex, but in the violence as well. Like at times it gets kind of graphic in some of the descriptions where it strays outside of it. So I would say, how firm are those lines? Do you think this is a YA novel? Is it a mistake to market it that way? And like kind of So I kind of see this as like a bridge. Like it's not exactly YA, but it's not 100% like a full adult book. I would say it kind of runs a bridge, but I don't know. I wanted your guys' thoughts here because I definitely thought about that because the marketing is for sure young adult.
I feel like the big thing is like, I'm sorry, you go.
No, you go. You go.
I feel like in my mind, I'm thinking like, would I want our child reading this in their, 12, 13, 14?
No,
Nah, probably not.
no.
So in my mind, it feels older than YAs. It may be
Yeah.
like in like a 17, 18, even like 18 plus, but not like, I don't think you'd have. Actually, I wouldn't say that, but like,
It's not Maze Runner.
no, not at all. So I'm like, I don't think I would have my middle school or even like high schooler reading this book, but it's really giving like in your 20s and 30s kind of book, Maybe not 30.
Yeah, I don't know. I
I
think
know
it's hard.
people.
So I read A Game of Thrones in high school, but I had to, this is so silly. I had to make a PowerPoint presentation to my parents to prove I was mature enough to read A Game of Thrones. So I started reading it freshman year of high school because I knew a bunch of the lore from the TV show. I didn't watch the TV show, but I was like, I know the lore. I know what's going on. Here's a PowerPoint presentation as to why I should be able to read A Game of Thrones. And it was like, it is literary in stylistic quality. Look at the length of these books. This is going to increase my vocabulary in areas you want and don't want it to be increased. But I like went through this whole thing and it worked and I crushed the Game of Thrones. And it's such a good Song of Ice and Fire is an incredible series. So I think like, maybe if our child one day presents a really strong case for why they should be allowed to read Court of Thorns and Roses in high school. Then yeah, PowerPoint presentation, formal, like, like it's a keynote address, then perhaps, but nobody.
Honestly, I mean, to be completely fair though, you guys both come from religious backgrounds, and like my family is religious, but not necessarily. We don't necessarily practice it that much. I was exposed to very mature themes at a very young age, and I have no problems necessarily letting. I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't be pleased or excited if my child read this, and I do think like 13 and 14 might be too young for this. I was reading it freshman year of high school. I was reading Lord of the Flies. I think we all read Lord of the Flies in 8th grade, and there's some pretty gory scenes in there.
Yeah.
I read a lot of mature books as a kid, and I honestly think that helped me out, like grow as a person. I think you're going to be exposed to these things, which, of course, this is like a part of a bigger conversation.
Of course.
But like, if my sister was into this type of story, I would recommend it to her. And she's 14. Yeah. She's 15. I honestly think this book appeals more to like 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds in general. I do think that the generation that's in high school right now, that would be considered YA, they would roll their eyes if they're reading this, quite frankly. But, is it YA? A little bit. But then again, YA has always been such a strange genre because, I mean, technically, you and I and Laura, like all of us, are YAs. The high schoolers are not YAs. They're high schoolers. They're teens. So,
Yeah, and I think that perhaps what you're getting at there also with, 20-year-olds or 30-year-olds really being attracted to this type of story is viewing love as sort of a child with a childlike wonderment and a little bit of immaturity kind of is an escapist mindset of love is hard, man. Like real love is hard and complicated and messy and heartbreaking.
Like the riddle.
And not, yeah, just like that riddle. Man, that riddle, if the whole book was like that riddle, then no, I'm joking. But yeah, so I think that portraying love in this sort of way is kind of like candy. You're able to distill it down to something simple, easy to digest, something that where the answers seem clear in a sense, even though they're not and they're a lot more complicated, but like it makes it seem like a simple thing. And that's very satisfying and comforting, I think, for a lot of people. Especially for people who've experienced what love actually looks like and means. It's kind of comforting to just look at your actual situation and then say, but look at this, like this is so much easier than real life. So I don't know, perhaps that's a sign as well. And obviously here we're straying into style. So perhaps we should give a little bit of a rundown on style. Nora, you go ahead and start here. What did you give the style? And yeah. 1 to 10.
On a scale of 1 to 10, I give style a 6 out of 10. I wasn't particularly wowed by it, but it never took me away from it. And then again, there were those descriptions in those particularly steamy scenes where it made me kind of giggle a little bit and roll my eyes. That's when I started skimming because I was like, okay, I get the gist of this. It's blah 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 girth, sheath, bowels, bite my breast and etc. etc. I was like, okay, I understand. I mean, it was definitely
Dude, the audiobook
a
must have been wild.
It was interesting. It was interesting.
You pumping iron, like working out. It's like oh my gosh, that's so funny.
It was uncomfortable to say the least.
Dude.
But yeah.
Laura sometimes likes me to read books out loud whenever we're going to bed. Like I'll be reading books. She's like, read out loud. I was like, like reading me a bedtime story or whatever. I don't know. I read out loud.
It puts me to sleep.
Yeah. Usually it's my own book, which is so weird. She likes to listen to me read my books so that she can just snooze, which is fine. Not a problem at all. Anyways, that's besides the point. I was reading this book, obviously, trying to get it done for today. And she knows the book. She likes the book, obviously. She was like, read it for me. And dude, I think it was 2 days ago. I was reading and I reached this steamy section and I was like, yeah, I can't. I gotta stop. I'm not reading this out loud. Absolutely not. She's like, why did you stop reading? I'm like, I'm not reading this. I'm not gonna do that. And yeah, so I mean, I gave a style 6 out of 10 as well. There were a few parts that really got me, like in a sense of she repeated some of the same phrases over and over and over again that were not
your favorite.
Dude, but they were not like normal phrases. Like it wasn't common. The watery bowels was the worst thing ever, and it really bothered me. What does that mean? And also, why does she have such watery bowels? Like
He's been raging about this since he started the book.
Oh my gosh. She needs to take some medicine. That's crazy. I've never had butterflies in your stomach is one thing. I'm assuming that's the expression she meant. And there were some other terms like the russet eye. I kept thinking of potatoes because that's just like not I understood. I understand what it means. It's just not commonly used in books and stuff. And so I just kept thinking of that was referring to Lucian's eye. She kept saying his russet eye. And I kept picturing him having a potato eye, which was probably not what she was intending. So yeah, overall, I'd give it a 6 out of 10. And Laura, you're actually kind of similar to us on this one, right? What'd you give it?
This was my lowest. I gave it a 6.5. It was an easy read, There were, it's just the phrases here and there. My thing was loosed a breath, like when you release a breath, and I don't know why. That is a hell of a easy to die on. But I hate it. Like, who loses? Anyways.
Who loses breath?
It's my soapbox for this book.
It's like people have like the pet peeves of whenever authors write in how they release a breath they didn't know they were holding.
Mhm.
That line bothers people a lot because you see whenever you're looking for it, you see it so much. I imagine it's the same for loosing a breath. Like I didn't notice it, but I wasn't looking for it.
Mhm.
But the watery bowels got me the first time, and I just kept seeing it over and over again. And it really bothered. Nor were there any, besides the she thing, were there any particular phrasings? I mean, obviously, it was difficult to follow some sections because you missed an entire chapter. But anyways, go ahead.
Phrases? No, not really. I guess I was surprised by how, like, descriptive she was. Like, all of the sudden, like, I mean, it was pretty dry prose. And then for the steamy scenes, she went all out. And I was like, oh, yeah, this is your cup of tea, isn't it? This is what you're really into. Like, you could feel the passion behind those scenes. I was like, okay, wow, this is really visceral. Like, oh, okay, I can picture all of this. So props to you, I guess. One thing that did get me, though, was how the narration felt like it was really in the moment throughout the whole book. And then there would be scenes where she would say, the days that I spend here, I do not care to recount. And it would take me out of it. It would feel like, oh, you're telling someone the story, it feels like, as opposed to like, I am inside your head and we're living in the moment. It kind of gave me a little bit of whiplash, but as far as phrases go, I skimmed a lot of them. I wasn't uncomfortable. It was just like I got the picture pretty quickly.
I think for me, like some of it got overly descriptive. Like you're saying, it didn't feel very even in how things were being described, which I guess makes sense to an extent, right? It's from her perspective, so obviously the stuff where she kind of feels everything gets more in depth in the sensory overload sort of deal, right? She feels every little touch. Like I get that. And that makes sense. But there were other areas where it would also get overly descriptive and it just didn't make too much sense as to. There were other areas that weren't very descriptive at all. Like I was having trouble picturing what under the mountain looked like. And I was having a hard time gathering. Like I was like, is this like a system of like tunnels and caves? That's what I thought,
Right.
but I
That's
didn't
what
really
I
picture
thought too.
that. But I could picture the manor pretty well. I think she did a really good job of describing how the manor kind of looked on a really basic scale. Like
I, I will
I got the
say
idea.
I will say I agree with you. The Under the Mountains stuff, it felt a little too foggy for me to picture. The manor reminded me a lot of the book Rebecca. I don't know if you've read that one. Rebecca,
Yeah,
which is a great book and a great love story. So I don't know. I just remember this book all of a sudden, and I feel like I need to give it a shout out. Um, Similar themes to some extent, but not quite. And then
no,
there
that's a really good
was
point.
something else I was gonna say, which I mean I know we're running out of time, but like going back to character, one thing that frustrated me was how Farah has she's like she spends her whole life hunting and barely scraping by and trying to survive and holding out hope for the day that her sisters are going to be married off and she's going to be able to just paint and be with her dad. And then she gets thrown into this world and she keeps asking herself, like, what am I going to do for the rest of my life? And
Yeah.
it doesn't feel like that part of the story is explored at all after a while. And it just kind of, her whole purpose for living becomes Tamlin, which
Mm.
I don't particularly like that part of the plot or like what it's trying to say. I don't know. How did you feel anything in
So
that
I'm not gonna
regard?
lie. My biggest problem with some of the character elements, and this is, I think, probably coming from like history background, the lack of nuance regarding aristocracy and like distribution of wealth was like a problem for me because it seemed like she all of a sudden has this extreme fortune, yet is honestly pretty selfish on how she views it. It is very much about me, my family, my group, which I understand. Like I understand she grows up in this mindset of like my family needs to survive, so she's prioritizing them. Like I get that. I would have liked a little bit more of this calling to help like humanity because she has that with trying to protect the humanity from the blight, like this magical corruption that Amarantha has. Like I that's useful, but that doesn't extend to the other fortunes of trying to eliminate starvation, for example. And whenever her family comes upon this wealth once again, that's not really much of a discussion, I don't think. And also the power dynamics of aristocracy, of how she has this handmaid and you have the high lords. I understand it's easier, like it's not supposed to. They wasn't trying to make a commentary there, and I get it. And to I don't know. I think it possibly just reinforces some not super healthy mindsets in society, especially because of how big this book is. And I mean, I don't know. A big surprise. I'm not super pro aristocrat. Like, I don't think that sort of structure is exactly healthy, especially because it's quite convenient how all of the like high lords that we meet within this book, besides Amarantha, who's not, she's like the evil queen. All of the high lords are all like good guys that we meet at least. Like they're all like, I have this power, but I want to do good. And that's very convenient. It does not reflect reality very much. So, and I
No,
imagine
you're
in future
100%
books,
right.
though, like there are bad guys involved
Hmm.
from different courts. And so I imagine that gets explored more. Just within this book, it felt like so convenient that all the people with power, besides
We're
the
good.
evil queen, were all good guys. And she never once questioned this sort of distribution of power being super uneven. So I don't know. That bothered me, but you know.
Yeah, I will say if you want a good love story and that has commentary about, you know, aristocracy and wealth and all that stuff, you should check out, Wuthering Heights or The Age of Innocence, like the more classical literature.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also agree with you. I feel like that was a little underexplored, but at the same time, I understand that
Yeah, it's not the
the
point.
scope of the book is very simple. It's
Yeah.
love, which
And so it's always hard. It's just like understanding what the book is going for. Did they achieve that? Honestly, I think for the most part, she did. I think. Did she achieve what she was
yeah.
going for? I wanted more nuance because I think we've seen through history that you can tell a cheap love story while still adding some commentary into it. And I think that helps keep an author honest and purposeful in their work. It keeps it away from just being a book, but that's my opinion on it. And ultimately, that's why I would, get this as an ebook. Regarding our subjective rating scale, it's an ebook for me. That's where I would keep it. That's where I have it. I think it's an ebook. It's something where, like, yeah, if you got it, read it. It's good stuff. Now, I mean, like, Laura.
I've looked around, and based on the collector's edition that they have available for these books, I would totally get it. They're pretty covers. Like, I like pretty things.
It's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
In the most shallow of ways, I like pretty things. They make pretty covers. But also, it was a good book. It kind of marked the start of like a new chapter of reading for me. And like, I liked it. It was good. Like throughout the series, like I enjoyed it.
100%. I mean, like, yeah.
Stick it in your library.
And that's the point of the subjective rating scale, especially, is to identify that a book doesn't have to be your number one book of all time in order to be significant for you as an individual. And a collector's edition is meant to signify that point in your life. And that makes complete sense. Nor, what would you give it?
For the first time, I finally got it right. The subjective rating that I give this book, it matches the version of the book that I have. So I got an ebook version, I got on the Kindle, and I think it should stay there. Although I will say that those black covers that I saw on sale were pretty cool. So I would not blame Laura for getting all of them. And Gabe, I think you know what you need to do. That would make a great gift.
Christmas is coming up.
Oh, that's so cool. I'm sorry, I just looked up the covers. That's awesome.
Yeah,
those are really cool. Yeah. No, the cover art is really beautiful. And honestly, like, I was waiting. Was there a point in this book where they said, like, wow, this truly is a court of thorns and roses? I was waiting for it. I don't think they said it, did they?
No.
They talk about thorns a little bit.
Yeah.
No.
They do.
There are some sweet parts about the court, and there are some more thorny aspects.
So, honestly, good job naming it. I thought she did a good job naming the book. It was a very apt name.
It is a sick title.
It's a sick title, and it isn't, like, super cheesy in the book. I was fully waiting for them to be like, wow, there's a bunch of thorns and roses in this court or something. So
what are we? Some sort of
court of thorns and roses? My gosh. And wait, Nor, did you finish your drink?
I did.
Dude, I finished the whole bottle because here at Novels and Nightcaps, we finish our drinks. Everybody have a good night.